Hello everyone, my name is Yara and welcome to my Chain of Gold reading vlog. So if you're anywhere near the book Twitter or booktube sphere, any book sphere really, you'd probably been aware of this book coming out as the latest novel in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. It is the sequel series to the Infernal Devices, these bad boys. So I've been kind of behind in reading the Shadowhunter Chronicles. I read TMI and I read Infernal Devices, but I haven't read the Dark Artifices at all. I think it started out with me not really remembering a lot of what happened in the Mortal Instruments and also not really catching up on the short story collections that she came out with that I thought you had to read before you got into the new series. And so I just never ended up reading it. And I've considered waiting until I finished the Dark Artifices to start reading the last hours, but I have no patience. And I also always really liked the Infernal Devices better than the Mortal Instruments. And so I couldn't wait. I wanted to read this series with these characters because I love them so much. I have, however, been procrastinating reading this book for some reason because I bought it the week it came out and it's been 3 weeks now. On the one hand, I was scared I was going to like it so much that it would distract me from doing my homework now that we're like remote schooling and procrastination is like worse than ever. And on the other hand, I was scared I wasn't gonna like it and that would make me sad because it's been a long time since I read a Shadowhunter book. The last time I even reread The Infernal Devices was in 2016, so that was still 4 years ago. And like, what if my reading tastes change? I don't think it has, but like, what if? Also, this reading vlog will be full of spoilers, so if you haven't read this book or if you haven't read The Infernal Devices, I suggest not watching. So with this reading vlog, we're gonna go on a journey and see what I think about Chain of Gold. So I was just looking at the back of this book and it says 50 million readers can't be wrong. Can you see it? I feel like there's some salt in that statement. So I'm about 92 pages in. Let's discuss what's happened so far. So first of all, I don't know if this is just a symptom of me not having read any Shadowhunter book in a long time or just this is just confusing in general, but there are so many names to remember. I need to make a family tree because there are just so many children. I don't know who's who. Especially all the Lightwoods because they all have the same last names. I don't know which Lightwood they are. I forgot how well Cassandra Clare writes angst and drama. Like the scene where Cordelia and James are dancing and then James sees Grace Blackthorne come in and he just like abandons her. That was like the most dramatic scene ever, but I loved it. But I felt so bad for Cordelia because, poor girl, her crush just left for someone else. But then Matthew Fairchild steps in and I didn't really know what to think about him. Cause like, I knew he was James's parabatai, but we didn't really know much about him. And so now I'm wondering, is he gonna be a love interest? Do we have like a love square going on with Cordelia, Matthew, and James, and then James, Grace, and Cordelia? Though I don't really think James sees Cordelia in any way that's not just a friend. So I don't know. So we have this whole dynamic that these kids are training a lot, but they don't really have anything to fight against. Like there's nothing to train for really, because after the Clockwork War, there haven't been any demons to even fight. And Tessa will kind of talk about that because they were like, they fought a war in the Infernal Devices, but their kids are not doing anything. They're going to balls, they're going to parks and having outings. And it's just kind of like a weird dynamic where like your entire role, like the definition of a shadow hunter is to fight demons, and when you don't have that role anymore, like what do you do? And because that's being brought up so early on, I think the book can go either in two directions. It can go either the fight is going to be pretty internal, which I think is going to have to do with James's whole situation, which we'll talk about, or just a new villain will arise. I just read the inside slip and it literally says, but Cordelia's new life is blown apart when a shocking series of demon attacks devastate London. These monsters are nothing like Shadowhunters have fought before. These demons walk in daylight, strike down the unwary with an incurable poison, and seem impossible to kill. London is immediately quarantined. Huh. So I guess I didn't need to theorize the big battle of this book. And going back to James's whole Shadow Realm thing, I don't really know what to make of it so far. I think it does have to do with the rise of demons coming along. I don't know if him like entering the Shadow Realm is like allowing demons to come in. That's a theory. I have no idea. I guess Lucy's ability, if she has one, is going to be connected to why she can see Jesse Blackthorne. And they've hinted that he's not a regular ghost, that he's something else. I don't know. We also learn more about the reason why Cordelia is here and the fact that her father was used as a scapegoat and accused of a crime that he wasn't necessarily at fault for. Don't really know where that's gonna go, but we shall see. Okay, so I'm now at page 188 and a lot has happened. So first let's talk about the lake/park scene, because holy crap, that was scary. I also kind of got Stranger Things vibes from the way that these monsters are working. Specifically season 2 Stranger Things, like when Will draws the picture of the demon and you can see him in like the background of the picture, like that's so freaking terrifying to me when you can't tell something is there, but it's a monster. Ugh. So we also get more backstory with James and Cordelia and Grace. First of all, James was expelled from the Shadowhunter Academy, and then he got the scalding fever, and Cordelia was the one who like nursed him back to health. So even when he's talking to Grace, he keeps going back to Cordelia and thinking about Cordelia, making me think that James and Cordelia will be endgame. I really don't know what's gonna happen with their relationships, because there's these hints that they like other people and I can't tell what is just friendship or just a passing thing or what's gonna be endgame. I don't know. I really like the group of 4 boys, like the Merry Thieves, James, Christopher, Matthew, and Thomas. It's very, you know, Marauders, very gangsy-esque. And I don't really know what James was trying to do by going into the Shadow Realm. I guess he was just trying to scan the situation, see what was going on with the demons, see if he could like figure out where they were coming from, if there was like a nest or something. And it seems to be that Cortana is somehow linked to that, and that's why he was drawn to Cordelia. I don't know if it's just because of Cortana or because Cordelia was being attacked by a demon and he sensed that, but they've been kind of trusting about the thing about Cortana, so I think something has to do with the history of that blade. Also, there's something with Grace, but I don't know what. Like they mentioned it briefly when James kissed her and he kind of felt like hurt by it or like physically affected by it in a negative way, and she was kind of panicked. And also there's something about Jesse Blackthorn. I mean, we know that he has died, and then we learned that Tatiana used like a necromancy magic to keep him not alive but not dead, like his soul is in between. Also, something just kind of interesting about this series in general is that we get to see all of the parent-child dynamics. I mean, not too in depth, we're really focusing on the children, but in most YA fantasy, especially urban fantasy, none of the characters have parents. Like even in the Infernal Devices, we barely got to see, if at all, got to see the parents of the teenagers that we were dealing with. And here the parents are not only prevalent, but they're also characters that we know and we love. It's just a really interesting dynamic. Also, I love Lucy. Lucy is so cute. And I like the sibling dynamic between her and James, especially in the flashback scenes when they're like 11 and 12. Like, golden. Okay, so Cordelia, Matthew, and Anna go to the Downworlder area, and then Cordelia ends up figuring out that the mermaid is trying to poison the warlocks, and so she saves them, and so they owe her. Not gonna lie, that felt a little bit contrived, but Cordelia's a queen, so I'm gonna let it slide. And then Grace sends James a letter saying to meet him somewhere. And then Jesse tells Lucy that the demon is gonna follow them there. And so Lucy grabs Thomas and Christopher and then go to Anna's house to try to find Michael, where they meet Alistair, who is trying to find Cordelia. And then Matthew and Cordelia come back, and then our crew is ready and set to go fight some demons. Sorry, that was a lot. Let's talk about this James and Grace scene. I knew something was up with Grace. I don't know, I can't tell if she herself is evil or if just something is up with like the Blackthorn family. I think Tatiana's the mastermind behind it. I don't really know. But she tries to convince James to not be a shadow hunter anymore, to remove his runes, and to get married to her and live lives as mundanes. And I'm glad that James does not even for once think that's a good idea. James is like, I'm not giving up my entire life. There's a different way. And she's like, you're not giving up everything. You have me. And whether Grace has to do anything with the demons and being on the evil side or not, that's manipulation. And I do not like that. And then now, I forgot to say, I'm like 270 pages in. Alistair. Alistair is an enigma. I don't understand him. We learn that he was like an asshole to all the boys when they were at school. He's also kind of a jerk to Cordelia, but I could put that down to just being like an annoying brother. He doesn't seem to care as much about trying to help their father. And from that snippet in Paris, we get the hint that Thomas and Alistair are gonna be a thing. But then we find out Charles and Alistair are a thing, but like also not a thing because there's that whole Charles and Ariadne married thing going on. I hope Alistair learns how to be a nice person and apologizes to everyone because I feel like he has a lot of internal struggle and I want him to get through that, to move forward. But yeah, no, please stop being mean to everyone who's trying to be nice to you. Y'all, it's 2 a.m. I need to go to bed, but
I came to see if you would join us. Surprised, Cordelia said, "Oh, did Lucy ask you to fetch me along?" James hesitated. Yes, she did. He hesitated! James, you love her. Shut up. So Cordelia's like, "I shouldn't leave Lucy alone with a man, ha ha ha." And then Lucy is like, "Matthew's not a man. We used to hit each other with soup ladles as children." And then Matthew is suddenly occupied with a spot of dirt on his sleeve.
Matthew likes Lucy. Almost confirmed. Hello. It's been 3 days now since I last updated, and the reason for that was because I have an exam today, so I had to spend a lot of the weekend studying, even though I did read pretty decent amount, probably more than I should have considering I should have been studying more. My first hypothesis was right in that I wouldn't be able to stop reading this when I started because it's so addicting. But anyway, now my exam is done, I am free, and let's discuss more. I'm on page 436, so I got through a lot. We have a lot to discuss. I don't particularly remember what I last read, everything's kind of blurring together, but something we do find out is that Grace is controlling people. She was able to force Matthew to kiss her. And after that moment, I was like, why didn't Matthew tell anyone? Why didn't he tell James? But I'm thinking it has to do with the spell, like something about Grace's magic, which has led me to believe that James has been under Grace's spell this entire time. That's kind of scary. And it's so sad because he feels bad for liking Cordelia when he knows he loves Grace, but it's not real. Speaking of James and Cordelia, ooh, they had a moment. A very intense moment, might I say. But then after it happens, they both just don't address it. Specifically James just kind of like goes about, does not make any reference to what happened. And if I was Cordelia, I'd be mad. I'm like, we need to discuss that. That was important. That was something that we should probably digest a little bit. And then we have that scene where James goes to Cordelia's house to return Cortana after the whole bridge fight, which we'll get to in a minute. And he tells her that he kissed her because he likes her and not because they were trying to play a part in that tavern thing. And then Alistair comes in and gets really mad at James and tells Cordelia to stay away from him because he'll never stop loving Grace Blackthorn. And at first, I was just kind of like, Alistair, why are you being so annoying? Please stay out of this. But then I put together the fact that Grace is now engaged to Charles and Charles ended his engagement to Ariadne and how that was so shocking. People were like, what? That Grace most probably magicked something on Charles to make him cut off his engagement and to make him think he's in love with her. And so Alistair knows the effect that Grace can have and how that's going to affect her potential relationship because it's happening to him and Charles. We also get some revelation into what happened in Cordelia and Alistair's childhood and everything about their father. Specifically the fact that he was a very bad alcoholic and that he's most likely at fault for what happened and what his trial is about. As much as Alistair needs to like calm down a few notches in terms of his treatment of other people, it was really heartbreaking to hear that he tried to protect Cordelia so much and have her be able to see their father with a good image, something that he never got to experience as a kid because he was always cleaning after his messes. Now let's talk about the scene at Tower Bridge when they're fighting the Manticore. These shadow demons are so scary, and they all psychologically taunt James and the fact that his grandfather is a greater demon. And like everyone in his life, like Jem, Magnus came back. That was a surprise. I mean, I knew he was gonna come back. He always is in a Shadowhunter book. You can't have a Shadowhunter book without Magnus in it. But really miss that guy. Love that he's here now. But everyone tells him that he's not defined by that part of him. He's a Shadowhunter. He is the son of Will and Tessa. That's what defines him more than the fact that he has some part demon in him. But I think it affects James more so than everyone else because he actually gets sent into the shadow world and he can see things that all people can, and that's kind of a scary experience. Like I said, very much season 2 Stranger Things vibes. But then we learn some other things about Lucy. So we know that Lucy had something special about her that allowed her to see Jesse. But then when she's calling for help to try to help Cordelia, who's in the River Thames, she summons an army of ghosts. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of happy that Lucy got some sort of special ability from this whole being part demon ordeal. Let's talk about Matthew, because something is up with Matthew. He's clearly going through something and is using alcohol to numb his pain. I feel like Matthew is the kind of person that, because of the nature of his persona, very lighthearted, very comical, always seems to know what to do kind of thing, that they don't really notice what's going on with him and the change. And also apparently he murdered someone. More on that later, I guess. I'm still invested in the Matthew and Lucy storyline, though a little bit less so now. I thought it was gonna be this whole declaration that like Matthew liked Lucy all this time, but James just like flat out says it in his narration that Matthew's had an infatuation with Lucy when they were kids. And like, I don't know, I wanted something bigger. Honestly, figuring out who likes who and who's gonna end up with who is like the most puzzling part of this book. Obviously there's some like actual plot and world stuff that we need to figure out, but on a personal level, I want to know who likes who. So I finished. That was a lot. Yeah, when we got to the part where James was taken into the Shadow Realm and was talking to Belial, I was like, cool, we're at the climax, things are gonna cool down soon. But there was still like at least like 80 pages left of the book, and I'm like, what is gonna happen? The fact that James and Cordelia are getting married under these circumstances is so frustrating. Poor Cordelia is like taking it, not in stride I should say, she's not happy, but she's taking it far better than I would take it. The literal love of your life telling you he doesn't like you after doing so many things that showed you that he did love you. I will say, I don't really know why Cordelia necessarily had to say that to get James out of the blame for burning down the Blackthorn house. Like, I feel like they could have said something else. Like, literally any other alibi could work. They could have been at, like, the Devil's Tavern. Like, I feel like there was so many other things I feel like they could say. I don't know. Maybe I don't understand the politics of this time. But you know what thought occurred to me? Both Cordelia and Matthew have noted that James has a sort of mask that he puts on, and I just assumed that was part of his personality, like that's how he deals with maybe stressful situations and stuff like that. But now it's kind of showing that it's might be the effect of the magic that Grace put on him and the bracelet having an effect on him, which is so sad to think about, because if this is like a trait that's been with him since he was a child, since he met Grace, that means so many years he has not been in control of himself and of his emotions. And even when he talks to Belial and he's like, I came here voluntarily, I'm in control, I came out of my own will, and Belial's like, no, I'm the one who was whispering in your ear, I'm the one who told all these people to lead you on this track. Like, poor James never gets to have control over his life. And then it's also kind of hinted at that Matthew does love Cordelia when he's talking to Magnus at the engagement party, and he's upset because he knows James doesn't love Cordelia. And he even references Jem. He's like, I can't even just stay aside like Jem, knowing that they at least love each other. I know I said in the beginning that I thought that there was gonna be some sort of love triangle going on with Matthew, Cordelia, and James, or I guess love square with Grace, but Grace's part is not really real. But I really wasn't convinced that she was gonna go through with it, because Matthew's part was very subtle, and also it was so reminiscent of Will, Tessa, and Jem that I didn't think Cassandra Clare would do it again. And I couldn't help it, and I looked at the family tree that's inside of the Clockwork Princess cover, so I know that Cordelia and James get married, and like I knew they were gonna be endgame. I don't know how Matthew was playing until all this. It also says that Lucy marries Jesse Blackthorn, so that kind of confirms that Jesse is gonna come back to life. It also says that Emma Carstairs is descended from Alistair Carstairs, but it doesn't tell me who Alistair marries, so I don't... Who? It deliberately says records missing or lost. But then who is this child? I don't know if it's a flaw in this tree or just a spoiler, but it says Barbara Lightwood lives until 1917, and this book takes place, I believe, in 1904, and she dies, so that might have just been an oversight. I also didn't know that the Lightwoods that we know from the Mortal Instruments are descended from Christopher Lightwood, my child. I honestly don't know what to feel at this point. Like, it's like a emptiness. Like, I'm not satisfied at all. I'm so angry. Now I have to wait a year to find out what happens. Is this what people who had to read Clockwork Angel when it came out felt like? Because I read the whole trilogy at once. They were all out by the time I read them. But not knowing Will's backstory for that long, wow. That must have been an experience. But this one's worse because we know what's happening, but they don't. Hello. It is now a day later. I've had time to sleep on it. I've also went back and reread some parts and tabbed some things. Probably should have done that as I read the book, but whatever, we're here now. As you can see, most of these tabs, pink means relationship, anything that has to do with relationships, and green means Matthew, just anything having to do with Matthew. Because I really just want to know what is up with Matthew. I want him to be happy. I want to know why he's not sharing anything. Matthew is definitely the Will of this series. Like, the boy will not let anyone love him, and I don't understand. There's one particular scene that I want to unpack. Page 304, Matthew asks Lucy to draw on a rat's on his arm. She reached to take it from him, and for a moment his hand closed gently around hers. Lucy, he said softly, and she almost closed her eyes, remembering how he had put his coat around her in the street, the warmth of his touch, the faint scent of him, brandy and dry leaves. But mostly brandy. She looked down at their entwined hands, his more scarred than hers. He began to turn her hand over in his, as if he meant to kiss her palm. Then, lower on that page, it says, "It does not amuse me to watch you hurt yourself," she said. "You are like a brother to me, Math." He flinched. "Am I? No one else has had such complaints about what I do, or my desire for fortification." And then Matthew says, "Worried about me? I'm flattered." "I am worried," said Lucy, "that you will get my brother killed." And then page 306, Matthew says, "If it were anyone else but you, Lucy, saying these things to me." But then he just leaves the room. So Matthew definitely has some feelings for Lucy. In what capacity? I don't know. Like, he flinched when she said he was like a brother. But then I don't know if his anger is the fact that Lucy was concerned about James and not really concerned about maybe what he's going through. Or he's mad that she's assuming he would do anything that would hurt James. There are so many hints that Matthew loves so many people, like with Lucy, like with Cordelia, that we figure out at the end. It's almost like he can't help but fall in love, which is kind of like the antithesis to James, because the whole Herondale, you only have one love. And then flash forward to page 317, Matthew and James are on the bridge, and James says, "Tell me, Matthew, tell me the name of the shadow that is always hanging over you. I can become a shadow. I could fight it for you." And Matthew says, "Oh, Jamie, what if I said there is no shadow?" I just want Matthew should be happy. Is that too much to ask? I think I would know a bit more about why Matthew is the way he is if I read. I think there's a story about him in Ghosts in the Shadow Market and Tales of Shadowhunter Academy. I read some of Tales of Shadowhunter Academy, but I really don't remember anything. That's what kind of sucks about reading Cassandra Clare books, is that a lot of times you miss a lot of what would make the story really good if you didn't read the supplementary stories. Like James and Magnus's interaction, the fact that James was expelled, and the fact that Matthew's apparently a murderer. I know this is the first book in this series, so it's probably going to be addressed later on, but I wish I had some clarification. So I really don't know what to do with Grace Blackthorne. First of all, another thing I missed in the family tree was that Grace Cartwright is Grace Blackthorne, which means that she marries Christopher? No, not my pure boy Christopher. I did read a post by Cassandra Clare that said that you shouldn't trust everything on the family tree because it wasn't made by people directly involved. It was people looking back at history, so some things might have been different. But anyway, back to Grace. I think the series is going to try to redeem her because we know she doesn't want to work with Tatiana. She wants to be rid of her. But also at the end, she puts the spell on James again because we then learn that this bracelet is going to have some sort of factor in Belial taking over James's body. And I keep going back and forth between whether I believe that Grace actually likes or loves James or not. Like, she says she doesn't want to marry James because Tatiana would wreak havoc on their family and cause them torture. And then also she wants the political advantage of marrying the consul's son. But she does make it seem like she doesn't want to hurt James. But how does putting a spell on him that makes him forget the fact that he loves someone help him in any way? I don't understand Grace. But we do get the hint at the end that Grace and Lucy are going to work together because they both want to bring Jesse back. Like, I think that's Grace's main motivation, is to help Jesse and live a normal life, I guess. I haven't really mentioned this so far, but there's actually a lot of commentary on the socio-political structure that is going on in this time. Like, that's Cordelia's main motivation in the beginning, is to try to lift her family up politically so that her father has a chance of being released, which, by the way, I think it's really fishy. Like, something's fishy going on with him being released. I don't trust it. And the repeated conversation about a girl being ruined, especially heightened by the fact that Cordelia almost essentially ruins herself at the end by helping James. And essentially that anyone who's not a straight white man doesn't get the privileges to do what they want and what's best for them. I realize I don't tend to like Cassandra Clare's first novels that much. Like City of Bones and Clockwork Angel. Like, I don't hate them, but I don't think they're that strong. I heard Lady Midnight's actually a really good first novel, but I haven't read it, so it just feels so frustrating because Cassandra Clare purposely leaves a lot of things unanswered. And so once you get to the later books and figure things out, it's a lot better and you understand the world so much better. But in the moment, like, I feel so dissatisfied. I also didn't really love the development of the villain storyline. I mean, I loved the introduction of these shadow demons that can go out during the day. I thought that was so cool, especially given the fact that these shadow hunters hadn't experienced demon hunting as much as like their parents did. But essentially everything with Tatiana I just didn't love because her motivation was so weak. Like, she hates the Herondales and the Carstairs and the Lightwoods so much for the death of her father when her father was a literal like demon at that point. And the fact that no one helped Jesse come back to life, but that's like an illegal thing. I was fine with it at first because I figured Tatiana was just kind of this vehicle for Belial, and essentially she pretty much is. I don't know. Again, this is definitely something that I think might improve in the later books, and most definitely will, because Cassandra Clare knows how to write conclusions and sequels. Anyway, I think that is all I have to say. Please let me know what you thought of Chain of Gold, especially with all of these new reveals. There's so much to discuss. Let me know who is your favorite character. I think mine is Matthew, just because how could you not love Matthew? He needs happiness. And I also love Lucy. Lucy is adorable. She wants to be a writer, and I really want to explore more of her power. I think if I were in a Cassandra Clare book, I would be Lucy. Maybe a mix of her and Cordelia. I also really loved Cordelia, especially the fact that she's half Persian, and I loved the intertwining of the story of Layla and Majnun. That was so beautifully done. So tragically done, though, given what happens at the end. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.